All right. Hi, my name is Will Fox, and this year for the Scholars Project, I did a piece of Python code. Not a piece; it's a fairly large chunk, but I did a computer science project, and so I did it on my other computer here. So see me looking back and forth. But basically, what I did was got an API, which stands for Application Programmable Interface, and there's a whole bunch of different ones out there, but the one I needed was for stocks, so it has a bunch of historical data and stuff. So when you use this API, you just have to give it a ticker symbol, and then it'll give it 105 minute. You can enter a bunch of different intervals and stuff, but the base one for it is about 5 minutes. So it goes all the way down, gives you 100 readings of 5 minute intervals, so 500 minutes worth of stock data, and then in each of those data points, there's like a high, a low, and a bunch of different information. And so my code is basically supposed to go through that, and it grabs like the highs and the lows, and it analyzes that. But yeah, so we can launch it up here. And so this is the main landing page. And when you click on select a ticker, these are the ones I've inserted so far. And so SILV stands for Silvercrest. I've invested in them before, and they're highly volatile. So you can get some good money out of them, but kind of high risk, high reward, depending on how much money you put in. But you'll see that here. And then Goog stands for Google. But if I put that in, it returns this. And so the first main thing I want to talk about is the big graph here. So number one, when you look at it, you see this line going from 4 p.m. to 7 a.m. That is the market closing, and so you can see the average when the market closed and the average when it opened. So you can see it kind of went up there. But another big thing too, as you can see, the disclaimer at the bottom is kind of important. It says graph marks the average between time frames, high and low, not actual price. So what that means is this is not the exact price. The program takes the high and the low of the 5 minute interval, and then it gets the average between those. So that way, if there's a giant spike or something, if the high launches up, it might read if that's an accident, because there might be more lows within that time interval. It might have gone down more or something like that. And so when it gets the average, it kind of balances it out. So that way you can see, like, if the high goes up a bunch, that might mean there was more highs than lows, so it's being pulled up, so it might be something good to invest in. But that's basically what this does. It's not the exact price. And then something else you might notice is there's only 10 points on the graph. So, like I said, the API returns 100 readings of the stock data. And so I just took every 10 readings, so every 50 minutes, because it's in 5 minute intervals. But that is what shows up on the graph. And so in terms of having trouble, let me open it up again. Here we go, Visual Studio. In terms of having difficulty, so here's where the graph is. So this is where the entire graph is. I gotta say, a lot of the time I spent on this program was just all towards research. Like, if I was actually well developed in programming and all this different stuff, I'd probably be able to make this website in 4 or 5 hours. But the thing is, I didn't know any of this stuff, right? So I'm just going to go backwards from what I struggled on last. And the graph was one of the last things I did. And so as you can see in the HTML file, this is where the graph gets pulled up. And so you're inserting some stuff that you can work with, pulls from, excuse me, pulls from a library called canvas.js.chart. That's what makes a chart. And then here's the data right here. And so the data is being pulled from right here. And where does that come from? Well, the Python. And all that is right here. So basically what happens is when you input the ticker symbol, it runs through this one right here. So about right here is where it all starts, is where the readings is. And so the most important thing that this code returns is the B list. And the B list holds the average high, the average low, the high, the low, the average, and then it also, after that, there's these for loops, right? And so in these for loops, it gets the 10 intervals of highs and the 10 intervals of lows, and it puts that in the last points of the B list, and it's actually called what's it called, an array in Python, but it's a list. It's a list of stuff, right? So it returns the B list, and then from there you can work with it here, define WOMP. That's just what I decided to name it. I was having fun. But this is a landing page. Index, as you can see, index.html, they match up. So whenever this is defined as index, this is a landing page. And this is all the stuff that I give index. So when I return template, it's returning this stuff to index.html. And index.html just lays it all out. But as you can see, it is extremely messy. I mean, this wasn't hard to do, but I suppose, like, I kind of made it difficult on myself. Like, once I got the graph in, once I found how to get the graph in, some good information on what to do, this whole entire thing right here, I was like, oh, okay, that's relatively easy. And after that, I was like, okay, but how do I get these points in? Because where I found the information on how to get this graph or the chart up, like, for example, T1 and P1, they were like hard input numbers. So example, like 10 and 50. And then same thing for T2 and P2. They could have been like 20 and 60, something like that. So they were hard input. I was like, okay, well, how do I get data in here? Because on HTML, like, as you can see, these purple ones here, like the title and stuff and message. So these are also input from here, as you can see, title and message. But it was like different for some reason because it wasn't glowing purple when I was doing that. So like, okay, it's not taking the information I'm giving it. So anyway, I figured out, oh, it's because it thinks it's like a string. There we go. So I thought it was a string, yada yada, a bunch of different stuff. And anyway, I finally got it. I was like, I looked up like how to make a variable or something in HTML, and then I just found a different command called let. So anyway, long story short, my issue was that this was so sloppy, as you can see. There's so many different variables, right? And I was like, oh, I want to try to make that into an array so I can just go through it less sloppily, you know? But that didn't work. But that was one thing I struggled on. Another thing I struggled on was just this. This is what I did in the beginning. Oh, where is it? Here we go. So this whole thing, pulling from the API and sorting from it. The biggest issue I had was, where is it? Well, the API basically returned I gotta go up here. So it returns a dictionary. So it's not actually an array it goes through. It's just a different type of way it stores things, and it gives you this thing called a dictionary. So I had to figure out in the very beginning, I was like, okay, how do I go through a dictionary? And this is how you do it, dictionary test.keys. And honestly, I did this so long ago, I kind of forgot what it does. But it lets you work with the dictionary. I think what it does is that, so it iterates through all the points, because it looks like I have a for loop here. Which goes through 100, which I'm assuming goes through every single one. So dictionary test.keys probably just goes through each input, and then it works with it here. But that was something I struggled with. Like, I could not for the life of me. I was getting pretty frustrated. I was like, why can't I work with this? And so I figured out that I need to work with a dictionary. And looking at the other page here, trying to figure out what else I need to talk about. What I learned that you can learn quite a lot of computer science from the internet. Kind of a funny story. Well, not funny, but just something in general. A lot of the things I got was, there's this W3 page, something else after it. I'm sure if you're in computer science, you know the rest of the page, but it helps you learn language. I got a lot of my stuff from there, and it's very helpful. It's for beginner learners. But also, there is the Stack Overflow. And that was probably one of the most annoying websites to ever go through. I think there's a big learning curve to looking at that website, actually, because there's a lot of professionals on there. You can learn a lot from there. But when I was looking at it, like a lot of times people ask these questions, they had inquiries, and the person that answered it, they didn't even answer you straight. You know, they're like, yeah, you have this issue, and like here's how you solve it, and they like have their own code different from what the person wanted, and then you have to figure out what they added to it and why it does that, etc. So like the figuring out the why is the most important thing, I think, in computer science. And so I mean, I'm not a pro at this at all, but I've definitely gotten better at figuring out why something does this or that, and I think that's super important to learn in computer science, why this or that happens, right? Um, and then I gotta say the highlights when something worked. You know, like when you get all these errors and stuff, it's like, oh my god, just work, please. And then once it works, it's so exciting. I remember like when I one of my biggest issues was, let me pull it up again. Exit out and then run it again. One of my biggest issues was trying to, come on, please work. Sorry. Okay. Was inserting your own information. So the selected taker, oh my god, it was so hard because I remember in the Python, like I had the user input their own stuff, and then in this right here, the black page, I literally just forgot what it was called. It would give you its data from there. It didn't pull up this web page, right? But you could insert your own information, but it was the web page where the user input their information, like what ticker they wanted to look at, that I was struggling on. Then there was this whole rabbit hole. I was getting so frustrated because I remember one night I spent 4 straight hours just trying to figure out how do I get the user input, and then how do I give it to Python, and then how does Python give it back, right? So back and forth between these things. And so that was so frustrating to do. And so once I figured it out, like the next day I got up early in the morning, I started working on it for about 3 hours. I remember I found this good tutorial, and it was like, once I figured it out, because I started to realize it would work because I ran it in between. I was like, oh, okay, so it's actually returning something. It was like it's giving something back to me instead of just giving me errors. So like, okay, this might work. And then once it finally popped up, once I inserted my ticker, and then it gave me information in the console here. It didn't put me to the next page. I didn't have it made yet. Once it gave me information back, I was like, yes, go, yeah. It was so exciting. But that definitely one of the highlights whenever you get something, because it's also with the graph here. I was so excited when that popped up. And also this little red image up here, I made that. I mean, it's pretty simplistic, but I mean, I got to show up and it's my own. So I mean, it's really cool. You know, it was very. I mean, there's so many highs and lows to computer science, you know, but definitely big learning curve. You know, I went into this, you know. I didn't have much patience when something didn't work, you know. It's like, oh my god, just please work. And then I sometimes just had to take breaks, and I wasn't very productive. But at the end, I was just able to sit down for long periods of time, like 5-hour, 4-hour intervals, and I was able just to work through it. I just got stronger at that, and I think I got better at figuring out why something works, and I also got better at like trying to figure out what the heck this person was trying to say in Stack Overflow. But that is my project, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I can go ahead and actually, sorry, I'm just using all my time here, aren't I? And show you some of my code here. So this is a landing page, yada yada yada. This is the thing in purple is something else that the Python returned to it, so it's other messages. The index .css, that's cascading style sheets, basically gives the header, like the headers and stuff, different fonts. You can mess with the styles there. Form.css, that is the page you initially land on, the form. That's what it's called, a form. The thing that you fill out, that is called a form. And that was also difficult to get, but this is a code that I did to get it to return something back to the user. And then these two right here basically run the entire web page. But yeah, that is it, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.